Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with founder and CEO of Otherweb, Alex Fink. He spent 15 years of his life making perception systems like cameras, computer vision, and that sort of thing. At some point, it dawned on him that the world did not need more cameras. That's how he started thinking about the concept of sense-making. It became evident that the biggest problem facing humanity right now is that we are all consuming junk. He gets into this and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
Good. Hey, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Before we get into your life as the founder and CEO of Otherweb and kind of what led to that, I want to kind of address COVID and how you survived that 2-year period and how that period subsequently changed not only the way that you live your life, but the way that you conduct business.
I actually had 2 small kids one was born during COVID, one shortly before that. So it created a situation where we had kind of a full house. So I was probably one of the only people that tried to work in an office by myself just to not stay at home during lockdown with everybody else. So I guess my experience during COVID was slightly different from everybody else's.
I see what you do on paper, but let's kind of get to another level of this. If I take you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I would say I'm an engineer, which means I try to use technology to fix real-world problems. Now, in my current focus, I'm trying to apply technology to fixing the quality of information that people consume.
So how did this begin for you? How did the seeds of technology and being an entrepreneur, how did go back to your childhood? Where were you born and raised, and how did these seeds become who you are now? And actually, before that, when you were in the third grade, what did you dream that you would become? What was your dream job?
Interesting. So I was actually born in the Soviet Union, and I moved to Israel when I was 6 years old. My father is an engineer, so engineering was almost a default choice for both my brother and me. But when I was in the third grade, I was probably dreaming more about finance, economics, something like that. And the choice to go into software and engineering in general kind of happened almost randomly when I was 18. I had to choose what faculty to apply to at university, and my brother was studying computer sciences, and I got convinced that I should do the same.
So are you happy with how everything's turned out?
Absolutely. I've managed to combine my 2 passions of building things and building economically viable businesses into one. I think that being an entrepreneur is the best of both worlds.
You know, being somebody that's in technology, as you very well know, it moves at a rapid pace, and there's things that we can't even foresee that are going to happen. And I'm curious, in your area of development, what's your crystal ball like here in the next, say, 5 years? Where do you think the technology is going to go, and how is that going to change the way that you do what you do?
Well, I think different technologies are developing at different paces, and there are some things that have a lot of hype around them, but I actually think that they're kind of a dead end. I think VR is one of them. Web3 is another. Those are really popular. I think that in 5 years, they will be exactly where they are right now, if not slightly less popular than they are right now. I think there are some fields that are developing in a way that will definitely start to change our lives more and more, and artificial intelligence is one of them, because essentially we are getting to a point where anything you can teach a human to do, you can also teach a machine to do faster. Maybe the machine will be slightly less precise. Maybe it will actually become more precise eventually, like it did with chess and with Go. And so basically any profession you can teach is probably not a profession worth learning anymore. And it will take 10 or 20 years to get there, but 5 years from now, certainly AI will be covering much more of the economy than it does right now.
So I remember being a child of the 80s when we looked at technology and we thought, wow, we could see somebody on a screen. You know, that was a really new and pie-in-the-sky technology that didn't get developed until relatively recently. Are you optimistic about the developments in technology? I know we've seen scary sides to it. You know, obviously there's the Arthur C. Clarke perspective, and there's other things that go into it. But are you optimistic as to where we're going with technology to actually aid humans to do the right thing?
I think it basically depends on what humans choose to do with it. So technology is a tool. You can use it to solve problems, which is what an engineer, I think, is supposed to do. But you can also use it to create problems. And it's hard for me to make a binary prediction which direction we're going to go in. I would much rather think about some sort of a probability of outcomes or a distribution of outcomes, where in a part of the distribution, humanity probably destroys itself. And in a part of the distribution, we solve all the major problems plaguing the world today. Where we actually end up between these two poles, I don't know. I think it might depend on completely random events that nobody planned, as many things in history tend to do.
In your life, who would you consider a role model or a hero, somebody that's consistently inspired you?
I've had quite a few of those over the years, and obviously most of them I even haven't met, right? I looked up to Richard Feynman for many years for basically just having the audacity to poke at things and see how they work, both in his main profession, which is science, right, but also in music and drawing and all the other things that he's tried in his life. I've obviously looked up to my father and my mother and my family. They've gone through a lot to get out of basically the pretty bad situation that I was born in the Soviet Union, and to give us a better life, to get us into good university, give us good professions. And there are many other people that inspired me, but I never really looked up to one particular person. Rather, I always looked at each person that has succeeded at something, and I tried to figure out what is the main thing they did better than others. Why did they succeed? And then I would try to emulate the parts that made sense, or the parts that I understood at least.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you love to meet?
Oh, wow. I think given the way things are going right now, Elon Musk is kind of an obvious answer, among other things because the guy doesn't actually have a filter between his brain and his mouth. And so I'd be able to ask him questions, and instead of getting some sort of a political response or a carefully worded response, I would get real stream of consciousness. So he'd be a fascinating guy to talk to.
What is it that motivates you when you wake up? When you wake up, you have these things that you do with your life that you want to get done in your day. That's one part of it. But at the end of the day, how do you quantify a good day for you?
I think a good day has to balance some elements of the different goals I have in life, right? So obviously when everything goes okay on the family front, everybody's happy, everybody's healthy, I do my part to help my wife stay happy and my kids grow up healthy and in a good environment. That's a successful element of how the day went. If in my work I managed to achieve some meaningful progress towards our mission, then that is obviously a successful element. If I manage to read or work out or do something to better myself over time, that's a partial success as well. So as long as I get to balance these aspects of my life and make progress in each one, or at least do what I expect of myself in each one, then that's a good day.
So, the one thing about life is that we're kind of corrective machines. And I'm curious, if you have a dream tonight, you run into a younger version of yourself, say in your early 20s, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gained over your life, what would you tell your young version?
Pick things that you like and practice more. I think the one thing I really lacked when I was younger is just the desire or the ability or maybe the understanding that if you want to get really good at something, there's no substitute to just doing it over and over and over again. And so there are many things that I'm doing now, and I'm sort of experimenting in a way that I should have really started to experiment 20 years ago. But now I have to be a beginner at them, whereas if I had started much earlier, then I would have been an expert.
What has been one of the best client responses you've ever gotten? One of the best letters or responses from a client based on the work that you've done?
So in the work that we do right now, we don't have paying clients, right? We essentially just have users that are happy if we help them read the news or listen to podcasts or look at the latest research studies in a better way than they've done before. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback from various users. I'm not sure I can single one type of feedback or one particular response above all others. Among other things, because I'm very self-critical, and so I probably remember when people criticize us much more than when people actually compliment us. But obviously the best thing for us to hear is everything was noisy before, the entire world is full of junk. This is my daily haven of just pure information and nothing else. So as long as I hear at least some percentage of the people I talk to say that, then we're on the right track.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your clients, but ultimately you're in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am somebody who changes all the time. And one of the big fallacies that people have is that now they are who they are, even though 10 years ago they were completely different. But I have this understanding that 10 years from now I'll be completely different from what I am now. And so one of my biggest requirements to myself is to try to grow into the person I think I should be 10 years from now. And that's kind of the main thing.
So Alex, if anybody wants to get any information on you and what you do, get to the good business of your life, where's the best place on the web for them to go?
Well, right now it's my main pursuit, my main mission. That's otherweb.com. And there are links there also to Android and iOS apps. There's a newsletter you can sign up to, etc. Other than that, resumes on LinkedIn like everybody else's. And I don't have much of a public persona. There's no Twitter or anything like that. So those are the main things.
Wonderful. Alex, hey, thank you for opening up, taking time out. Have a great holiday in 2023.
Thank you so much, Joe. Merry Christmas.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, and music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube or Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.